It's not just radio, it's Rockland World Radio. RocklandWorldRadio.com.
Welcome to Dialogues at Dan, heard on Rockland World Radio every Tuesday evening at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sure to check out the archives located on the programs page you can find on the menu bar. And now the host of Dialogues with Dan, Mr. Dan Windheim.
Thanks, Richard. Hi, everyone. This is Dan. And tonight we have a past guest who came by and is visiting again. I'm speaking with Nick Iarocci. I last spoke with Nick on May 9th of 2012. Is Iarocci is correct?
That's right. It's Iarocci. That's fine. Dan, that's fine.
Very good. Nice to see you.
How are you?
Oh, good, thanks.
And doesn't Richard have the best voice? He's got the. It's musical, Richard, right? The man behind the curtain.
Oh, exactly. Yes, I'd like to start. Well, Nick, you're involved with construction and what else?
Well, I do have a construction company, and I also delved into online media. So I'm an online media talent for eHow. I do instructional videos on little tidbits that homeowners might need help with.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Actually, I had the pleasure of seeing one of these.
That's great.
That was the saw, the 3 blades.
Right.
Yeah, very nice.
Did it help you out? I hope it did.
Oh, well, for future reference.
Right.
Yes.
And I think that's what it is. You know, people need help with something, they reference it, and, we take it for granted that we know everything, that things are just going to, but, it's just,
Definitely.
Yeah.
And once it's on the internet, it's there for good.
Right.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Oh, sure thing.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe we could start by you telling us, what does it take to construct something, whether it be, something.
Well, let's delve into the handicap issues again. I mean, I know your show revolves around that. Why don't we do that? If at the start of it, I think it would be assessing the person's needs. More importantly, you'd meet with them, find out what their limitations are, kind of develop a strategy. For example, if somebody had to get into a house or needed access into a shower, for some certain people can't lift their legs with the illnesses that they have, so you find a way to maybe make a barrier-free type of shower, a roll-in shower.
Sure.
If they're stricken to a wheelchair or
yes. And is this like very involved work? I mean, a roll-in shower.
Oh yeah.
That involves, taking out the tub and putting in something to roll in. Sure.
And we do it we actually get called back into homes that are already existing for the disabled, so we go in and we revamp, even when they were originally built, as they have afterthoughts once the consumers are in, and we rehab those as well.
Oh, really?
Sure.
And is this very expensive?
It can be. It depends. It really does. If a person's, I can only speak for myself. If a person's on a budget, I'll certainly work with them as best as I can. And I know that there are organizations also that help consumers to get these services. And there's numerous ones that they're mainly government or non-for-profit sites that you can visit.
Are we talking about grants? Maybe grants that various agencies, delve these money's out.
They do have grants, Dan, but you and I both know from experience, I'm sure, they're cutting all these budgets. So it's gotten more and more harder for a person to get these grants. There are intermediate organizations intermediaries that work to find funding for private individuals.
Yes.
For example, in Rockland, where we live, they have the Rockland Independent Living Center. George Holman, who's running for councilman, is a friend of mine, and George does a great job. He matches people with their needs, and he tries to get them funding and gets them the help that they need, or at least give them direction.
Sure.
As to where they might look for, because there's endless amounts of needs. So it varies depending on what you need, whether it's the elderly, mentally disabled, physically disabled. So the needs are.
Yes. So as far as like the non-disabled, like can really anyone do anything?
I believe, I believe anybody's capable of doing construction work themselves.
Yes.
I think the end result would be a direct correlation to their abilities, though. I do believe that. And even for me, when I compound walls, if I haven't done it in a while and I go back to doing it, you need that little bit of time before you get the groove back in. Your body moves in a certain way. So there are there's certainly things that I wouldn't have a consumer handle, to be honest with you. Although I'm online giving plumbing tips, I would always refer to a licensed individual if it's something beyond the person's means.
Yes.
So,
Yes, so we discussed there are certain websites or assistive entities. Maybe you could share some of these websites.
I actually Googled them myself, and I wasn't aware of all of them. But here's one that's disability.gov, and a lot of these. Again, this is strictly like a division of the government, and even when you access these websites, they always have sub websites that they direct you towards. It's always towards the government, though, so you could go on the government website, and I'm sure you could look up particular items depending on what you needed. It's so
exactly. Yeah. And so you said, actually, I've interviewed the woman from disability.gov.
Oh, did you really?
Yes, and they have many links on their website.
Yeah, I don't know if they're struggling with issues of cutbacks also.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of organizations that are.
Yes,
I don't know if she's one of them. Whatever. It's really sad, and I'd love to share this with your viewers, because I think that the first thing people do is they feel that they almost because they can't relate, or they lack that perspective. They think that they're beyond getting hurt, or beyond, it's someone else's problem. But the truth is, we're one step away from having a disability. It's just
exactly.
And I think that people should realize that, and the need for it is so great. Cutting that is really ridiculous. I think it's going to tax our system in the end. We're going to save it on the short term, maybe.
Yeah.
But I think in the end, the need is just going to just increase, that it's just going to tax our system. It's just really.
Oh, yeah, I agree with you. So could you share with us the process that someone goes through, not just disabled, but in building something? Like, as far as I know that there's money concerns, there's space, there's materials, and there's plans. Maybe you could talk about each part of that.
Sure. I mean, I think if you go into any project around your house, the first concern that comes to mind is probably the money end of it. And depending on how much of a budget you set up, that's going to dictate what your what you're going to spend on the project. Let's take a small project, okay, like a bathroom renovation or something.
Oh, it's real small.
Well,
God, make it do that.
on construction terms, it's relatively small,
Yeah.
So let's say you were going to do, and you had a very limited budget. Now, I would say the average bathroom remodel in Rockland County runs anywhere from, I'm going to say, $7,000 to $12,000 in that range. So let's say somebody just wanted to do, they had $4,000 budget.
Yeah.
Well, then they'd probably consider maintaining the tiles, maybe redoing the walls, vanity. So I guess once the budget's set up, I mean that'll really determine what
Yes.
what you can do. But what was the other points?
Well, I guess the plan or the
Design work.
Yes.
Yeah.
or the blueprint.
Right, if you had access to, again, you wouldn't necessarily do a blueprint for bathrooms, although I have done bathrooms that have, had
Yes.
blueprints drawn for them. What you would do is, on larger project, you most certainly would have a blueprint drawn, and I would recommend this to any homeowner, actually, because the less gray areas that a consumer has, the less, degree of a situation arising where you get into a disagreement with the contractor or somebody doing work. It's all spelled out. It should be an easy application, right down to the fixtures. Just even the fixtures.
Yes.
There's so many to choose from that you have to be very specific, and unless they're left out of the contract, which is what I do actually.
Yes. The important stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's on the consumer.
Yes. Maybe you could talk about what tools might be helpful.
Okay.
Maybe I know there are many tools, and maybe some basic, like a toolbox. What general tools would help?
Yeah, I could talk about how about the newer generation of like laser and sounding tools like a stud finder. They've got great developments in the stud finding thing. What happens with the stud finder, and this is really interesting, is people think it measures the solid object behind it, and what happens is when you press the stud finder, it actually meters the thickness of the sheetrock. So what happens is when it passes over the stud, the deviation in thickness because of the stud is when it sounds off, and then whatever. But the newest generations can actually detect an electric wire and plumbing behind it, or whether it's a wood or metal stud. So they're pretty good tool to have in a common toolbox, whether it's to hang a picture or to do actual work. If you're cutting a piece of sheetrock and you want to, find the center of the stud just to make a quick patch or something, you got to get behind it. It's good to know.
Oh, definitely.
There's lasers that are out now that are great. We use them all the time for horizontal lines. If you were in an application where you wanted to put molding in your dining room, you might want to just get a nice level line going across the entire room, and they have lasers now that determine level lines across the room.
Oh, is that it's like a beam?
Yeah.
And it's
so you can mark it off, and it's perfect. The deviation is I think, I don't really know what the deviation, but I think it's like 1/8 of an inch per 100 feet. Maybe it's even gotten better since I've, bought my equipment, but that's crazy accurate, It's,
definitely.
and they, you also use that type of a system for a drop ceiling, which is a common install that a homeowner might have, or you might use it for putting up walls, because they'll also do a vertical line. So if you need to set up walls where, let's say I had to lay a wall across this entire room, I'd set up the machine and would, the line would just be constantly there, and I could sit there and mark it. And then when we start building, it's already set. It's all plumb, it's straight, very accurate,
Yeah, so it really helps you out on your job.
Absolutely, because you want to maintain plumb, squareness,
Yes.
and straightness in the job. So yeah, those things are great.
Are these things expensive?
Some of them can be. Some of them can be. A lot of them have come down in price, so they're pretty affordable. I think most homeowners could do it. Could stretch the dollar that they're. I think the stud finder that I recently bought was maybe $15, and it does everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does everything. It's a great tool.
That's a great thing. So maybe could you tell us what other tools have been introduced that help people construct things?
Let's see. Boy, that's such a broad question, Dan. I have to give that one some thought. A new introduction in tool. I could tell you that there's one tool that I'm very fond of. And I find it's a unique tool. It's been around for a while. It's not actually a new tool, but for whatever reason, it's caught on lately, and that's an oscillating saw. Do you know what that is at all?
Oh, no, I don't.
An oscillating saw is a saw that vibrates, like goes back and forth, back and forth.
Yes.
And what happens is you can use it to cut moldings. You can use it to remove tiles. There's endless applications as a sander, as And what's funny, when you don't really realize it or appreciate it unless you're in a tight corner where you really don't have room for to move the saw. But when you need to cut something accurately. Right. That's when this saw really comes into play, and it's really handy.
Oh, that's
And again, I bought my oscillating saw for maybe $120, so it wasn't expensive.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Yes, you had mentioned that my shows are a lot about the disabled and like other tools that are maybe like
that you can use for,
or that have
all those tools I mentioned are definitely I used on jobs,
Yeah, I'm saying, like a saw, someone who's disabled might not be able to use a saw.
I'll tell you, that oscillating tool, that's interesting, Dan. That oscillating tool has minimal movement, and outside of the one, it's obviously with any tool, depending on the person that uses it, they have to have the limitations, to use the tool. So, given the fact that they have a limitation of pushing forward and keeping your hand fairly still,
yes.
You could use the saw. I think, you could use it for a lot of purposes.
Yes.
I would definitely recommend that. That and maybe a Dremel tool would be something that if somebody's into crafts making. Or if they have limitations, Dremel tools are very usable tools. In other words, they're very. I losing my train of thought here, but
what did you call it?
A Dremel. Dremel's the company that makes it, but actually it's a rotating bit on the end of a tool. But they have different adapters and bits and blades that you can substitute. So if you really had you might see model makers use this type of a tool, So just to give you that, it's dentists use it like in your teeth, that type of a Dremel tool. Obviously, a lot more sophisticated, but
Yeah, like a few months ago, I interviewed someone about fishing for the disabled, and he spoke about there's really all sorts of new kind of rods for the disabled, like someone with one arm that they can hit a release button and they can cast.
Sure.
And maybe a tool, like someone with one arm, like if they're doing, say if they're whitewashing, like a pie. I imagine there's like a tool that you could spray paint, like distance.
They do
long distance.
They do have spray systems. Airless guns, for example, that have come out. different tools that the disabled can use. I don't know if these tools are quite, focused on their limitations, though. Like everything else that's produced in America, it's based on demand, so they figure, it's a small portion of the population, so you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Although it's not that small, though.
Oh,
Exactly. People, it's a
you-
market they're probably losing out on that
I'm
they
glad
don't realize.
You hurt yourself.
Right.
Because the numbers are really growing,
Yeah.
especially as we get older and less able.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
That's-
absolutely, Dan. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're all subject to it. I
Exactly.
think we live in denial, a little bit of a denial, when it comes
Yes.
to it. I think,
exactly.
one way or another, we're going to use those services.
That's right. So you had spoken about some websites.
I did. That was one of them. I know in Rockland there's a Rockland Rockland.gov. That you can visit, and that website will, show you different areas that you might want to, again, and I'd love to, the Rockland Independent Living Center, or www.rilc.org. And I know that, again, George works for,
Yes.
as a liaison between people with needs and whatever. And if he can't help you, I'm sure he'll direct you in the right place. So,
Definitely. Yes, there's so many different websites.
yeah.
I
And
mean,
people with different needs.
Yes.
So it's very hard to,
And even for building is not excluded. Buildings, the internet, the internet has everything.
It does.
Including
You
building.
could find any product you want, any, and hopefully, any information that you need when you need to make a repair or whatever it is.
Yes.
A lot of folks out there trying to give the information out.
So I imagine often you find yourself going on the internet, just searching things
I
out.
absolutely reference. I absolutely do. To think that anybody knows it all is, that's a ridiculous statement.
Yes.
I absolutely do. There's no qualm about it.
Yeah.
I reference stuff on jobs. Architects might want a new product introduced on the job. Something I've never worked with. I have to find out, the product data on it. I have to find out what the application is, what its limitations are. Maybe the guy, whoever drew the plan, didn't actually, think about a certain dynamic to the materials he spec'd out, and you can question it. Architects don't want to see the wrong material put down. It makes them look bad. So if you find something, you want to report it back to them and
Exactly.
let them make a decision.
Yes, so I imagine you also check codes on the internet.
You know what, Dan? I'm very limited with that. I leave that completely to the architect and engineer. That's their job. Their job is to go in, go through the local municipal codes to determine what people are able to build, in whatever circumstance they have, whether it's if they're building an addition, what setbacks there are, or what they have to do, and I'll build according to what the architect designs. Usually, unless, like I said, I find something that's inconsistent, that I want to make the architect aware of it. Usually when it gets to my stage, it's already been planned, already been engineered,
Yes.
and that's and it goes forward.
Oh, excellent.
Anybody can look up code, by the way. It's a matter of public information. There are bulk regulations, they're called. So if you need to find out the setbacks before you build, you can go into your local municipality, and they'll gladly provide you with it. So it's nothing that's
Oh, definitely. So there is a website that deals with codes.
Well, yeah. It's the zoning is unique to the municipality.
Yes.
So depending on what region you're on the map, that would determine the zoning, and the zoning determines the requirements that you're allowed to, build there. So you really have to. It gets complex. These guys, they figure out, they look up your address, look up what zone you're in, look up, the restrictions based on the zone you're in, and then they start building accordingly.
Sure.
But they do all that legwork. I don't really get involved with it.
So you, in no area, do you do everything A to Z? You're never the sole worker.
Yeah, I mean, when you say sole worker, do we do a lot of the work ourselves? Is that in-house? Is that what you mean?
Do you do
I try to do.
work A to Z?
I try to do a lot, as much as I can, in-house.
Yes.
But there are services where I'm not licensed for. Electrical, plumbing,
Right.
some minimal plumbing you can do, minimal
Yes.
electrical you can do. But, when it's definitely a permitted job, you have to get licensed professionals. They have to sign off, get underwriter certificates. It's got to be legit. And a lot of these projects that you do, like putting up a deck, you have to warrant. You have to warranty for a long time. So you have to, you want to make sure that they're built according to code. And I get calls all the time for people that they decide to put up a deck and they think they get away with it. They put it on the market, and then the inspector does what's called a violation search. He comes over to the house, and he finds all these violations that they have to correct before it gets sold. So it's, do it now or do it later, but it's going to get done, so.
Yeah, now might be a good time for you, Nick, to give your name, your number, website, to anyone listening.
Oh, sure. It's Nicholas Iarocci, and the company's Source Development, Inc., and the website's www.sourcedevelopmentinc.com.
Great. And do you travel?
I do. I'm limited. I'm licensed to Westchester and Rockland and parts of Jersey.
Yes. So,
I try to stay in this area.
yes. So have you worked out of state ever?
My videos have gone out of state.
Oh, yeah. Why don't we touch on that? Talk about your videos and about this new venture you've taken.
Well, it's funny. I got the opportunity and the encouragement from some friends, and I started doing these videos. They're informational videos for eHouse. So, for example, if you wanted to Google changing a faucet, or you wanted to Google whatever it may be, drilling a hole or whatever, I make these brief videos that aid people in procedures on how to do these things, And it's they're very brief, they're very concise, and some of the stuff gets lost in editing, which I'm not responsible for, and some of it gets lost in nervousness when you're doing the work, But it's fun. I like it. I like it a lot.
How long have you done this?
Probably about 2 years now. And
Really?
Yeah, I've got 130 videos or something now.
How could people check this out?
Oh, they could Google my name. They can. They probably have seen the videos and not even known it. It's just, yeah. As a matter of fact, it's in the San Francisco Gate is featuring my my videos, and they actually gave me my own title.
Oh,
Yeah,
excellent.
which I'm happy about.
So maybe
It's an honor.
Yeah. Way to go. Right? So repeat again. Or spell your name.
I go under the persona of the home source guy.
Yes.
So that's my the online media persona.
The home source guy.
The home source guy. Yeah.
Or Nicholas.
Or Nicholas Iarocci.
How
do you spell that? It's Iarocci.
Oh, excellent. So, Nicholas Iarocci, maybe you could tell us about your future plans.
I'd love to get a show. I actually would.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the more I've done, more work that I've done with the media, I really would love to get a show. And people have actually approached me already, believe it or not. So who's the lucky guy,
Oh.
And I don't know how or why, but they they see something I don't know.
So it's gonna go there.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Yeah?
Hopefully. Who knows?
That's very cool.
Yeah, I hope it does.
Excellent. Well, before we end, Nick, maybe if you could give two pieces of advice for someone listening who wants to explore building, what would they be?
2 pieces of advice.
About building.
The building trade, you mean? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
I would think, honestly, although I didn't have it myself personally, I would recommend construction management courses. I would recommend code. Code's constantly changing, and I would really recommend being on top of it. And it just facilitates the job going forward in a progressive manner. So I really think that'd be a great starting point.
Yes, and then any amateur could create something.
Absolutely. Why would you? I wouldn't discourage anybody from doing anything. If anybody tells you can't do it, just look the other way and do it.
Yes.
Why would you? Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, you heard it here from Nicholas Iarocci. Thank you, Nick.
Oh, Dan, no problem.
Well, everyone, have a great night. This has been, I'll try to say it, Nicholas Iarocci on Dialogues with Dan. Have a great night. Peace.
It's not just radio, it's Rockland World Radio. Rockland World Radio. RocklandWorldRadio.com.